Oscar Niemeyer's influence on modern architecture. Our presentation is divided up into 6 sections, where I, Bodensider, will be presenting the introduction, background, and education portions. Sienna Shibley will discuss Oscar Niemeyer's novice years as an architect. Ryan Shaw will overview some famous projects. Melanie Cutler will explain the connection to Brasilia, and Sienna Shibley will end with our conclusion. Oscar Niemeyer, born on December 15, 1907, was a successful Brazilian architect with an astounding global influence lasting far beyond his prime of the 20th century. His designs are most famously noted for their creative aesthetic appeal and are truly some of the most beautiful structures in the world. Niemeyer's accomplishments are stacked up, with his winning of the Lenin Peace Prize in 1963, the Pritzker Prize in 1988, a Prince of Asturias Award in 1989, an RIBA Gold Medal in 1988, and the Premium Imperial Award in 2004. Upon Niemeyer's death in 2012, then Brazilian President Dilma Rousseff expressed mourning in the quote, "Brazil lost today one of its geniuses. Few dreamed so intensely and accomplished so much as he did." Because of Oscar Niemeyer's breathtaking work, success, and influence, our group makes the claim that he forefronted much of America, Brazil, and even Europe's architecture, and still does to this day. In this presentation, we will convey our argument in a way that allows you, the audience, to understand and appreciate Oscar Niemeyer's impact in Brazilian culture. Oscar Niemeyer grew up in a large, rich family, where he was one of 6 children. Besides his family residing in Brazil for generations, Niemeyer's blood lineage dated back to roots in Portugal and Germany. At a very young age, he became extremely fond of drawing and was given a pencil from his mother. With his father working a lot and his mother tending to 5 other kids, infant Niemeyer had a lot of time on his hands to explore his creativity and interests. He grew up living a bohemian lifestyle, which was normal for others living in his region of Rio de Janeiro. A bohemian lifestyle consists of more spiritual or artistic passions, with generally no concern of the future. Niemeyer's family situation, worldviews, and advanced creativity from a young age contributed heavily to his later success. When Oscar Niemeyer was 21 years old, he dropped out of Santo Antonio Maria Zachariah Priority School and got married. His brief stint out of school ended when he enrolled in the National School of Fine Arts in Rio de Janeiro and graduated in 1934.
Now I'll be talking about Oscar's architect years. Oscar focused most of his work on modern architecture. He's best known for designing the civic building that later became Brazil's capital in 1960. He began working with the influential Brazilian architect and urban planner Luca Costa in 1932. Together they created some of the most important work in modern architecture. At age 29, Oscar was assigned as a draftsman for one of their projects. Oscar worked with Luca Costa and was impressed and was appointed as project lead architect. At age 32, Oscar designed the Brazilian Pavilion at the New York World Fair, alongside Luca Costa. The mayor was so impressed with his work that he awarded Oscar with the keys to the city of New York. In 1947, Oscar was recognized worldwide for his work and traveled the United States to be a part of the team who was working on designing headquarters for the United Nations. In the 1970s, Oscar moved to Paris and began designing furniture, which was produced by Mobilier International. His creations consisted of chairs and ottomans made out of bent steel and leather in limited numbers for private clients. In his later years, he became the world's oldest practicing architect. Now we're going to hear from Ryan about his most famous projects.
So for my part of the project, we are going to dive into Oscar Niemeyer's famous projects. During his 104-year lifespan, Niemeyer left the world with more than 500 works scattered throughout the Americas, Africa, and Europe, so it's hard to just select a few to talk about. But I had to start off with one of Niemeyer's first projects, which were in 1940 called the Pampula Complex. He was told to design a complex of ceremonial buildings to form what was going to be a new neighborhood on the edge of the city. So the picture on the left is Church of St. Francis of Assisi. He received a lot of criticism from the public because of the curvy designs he constructed, and at the time his work was way ahead and was kind of a spark for modernism in architecture. Now we can compare one of his first projects on the left to one of his later projects on the right. The building on the right is called Mac de Natiri Museum in Rio de Janeiro, which was built in 1996 and had influences from the environment and modernism. So the saucer-shaped modernist structure has been said to look like a UFO, and it's set on the cliffside of a mountain, and at the bottom there's a beach. So in a quote, Niemeyer said, "The curve I find in the mountains of my country, and the sinuousness of its rivers, and the waves of the ocean, and on the body of the beloved woman, curves make up the entire universe, the curved universe of Einstein." This kind of shows Niemeyer's dedication to showing Brazilian culture as well as incorporating curves and the environment, which is an indication of modernism work. So to show Niemeyer's actual influence on modernism, we can kind of tell this by seeing how he worked all the way to the end of his days. He passed away 10 days short of his 105th birthday, but his architectural career continued all the way till the end. He was still giving directions to his employees about ongoing projects from his hospital bed in Rio. So this kind of shows you how his work continued to be relevant for more than a century. The pictures that are shown on this slide are many examples of modernism in Niemeyer's work. You can see most of his work has like minimalistic values and curved edges instead of like the traditional straight edge. So I want to spend more time showing how Oscar Niemeyer's work differed from architects during this period. While Niemeyer was not the only architect experimenting with like modernism at the time, many architects did not adopt the modernism ideas. So the picture on the left shows Church of Our Lady of Fatima in Brazil. It is hard to tell without the cross, if you were to take that out, what that building would actually be, but you can see how minimalistic and how it's complemented by the curves of the concrete that is holding it up. The church on the right is a cathedral of St. John the Baptist in Washington, D.C., and you can see how that church takes up more of a traditional look and seems to have ample seating on the inside compared to the Church of Our Lady in Brazil, which has less seating and is more small and minimalistic. But both of these churches were built in 1958, so that further shows Niemeyer's advancement during his time with modernism in his work.
In his great fame from previous work, Oscar Niemeyer was granted the opportunity to design Brasilia, the new capital of Brazil. In 1956, Niemeyer's old friend, President Juscelino Kubitschek, asked him if he would design the city, to which he agreed with some circumstances. Niemeyer proposed that there be a competition held for Brazilians to design the master plan of the city. Coincidentally, his mentor, Lucio Costa won the competition. He worked alongside his mentor at Novacap, the government building authority. Lucio designed the city layout while Oscar designed the buildings. The dynamic duo used rural regions to design the streets without transit and buildings floating off of the ground supported by columns. They wanted to allow the space underneath to be free and integrated with nature. When the city is viewed from above, it can be seen to have elements that repeat themselves in every building, achieving a formal unity. These elements are things such as building styles, techniques, and surrounding areas. All of these connections can be seen in the pictures in the coming slides. The three buildings below have been nicknamed the Three Powers Plaza after the three branches of government: legislative, executive, and judicial. The Supreme Federal Court is a representation of the judicial power. This building has wing-shaped columns surrounding the entire structure and walls made of glass. The Presidential Palace is a representation of the executive power. It is also known as the Palace of Dawn. It has similar wing-shaped columns as the court. This is where the president lives and conducts work, much like the White House. The legislative power is represented by the National Congress Building. This building has a dome on one side where the Senate is located, and the other side is an inverted dome where the Chamber of Deputies is located. The towers in between the domes are government office buildings. These buildings are in the middle of Brazilia's monumental axis. Next, we have some more government buildings. The Ministry of Justice building has tall arches and is surrounded by water. There are bowl-shaped structures to serve as fountains and replenish back into the surrounding water. The Edamantri Palace is the headquarters of the Ministry of Internal Relations. The structure is extremely similar to the Ministry of Justice building, and it also resembles the Supreme Federal Court and the Presidential Palace. The Attorney General's office is two cylinders covered in mirrored glass. One of the cylinders has a star-shaped structure on the top. These cylinders are connected by sky bridges. Next, we have some cultural buildings. The Cultural Complex of the Republic was another dome shape. It also has ramps that wrap towards the entrance. This building contains a museum, library, auditorium, and laboratory. The Memorial of Indigenous People was designed to resemble a Malacca roundhouse. The Malacca roundhouse is a traditional house for Brazil's Yanomami population. Niemeyer used another ramp with curves leading to the entrance. The National Theatre of Brasilia has a truncated pyramid shape, with one side made of glass. It is the largest building for the arts that Niemeyer has designed. The Cathedral of Brasilia has swooping columns to form a hyperboloid structure and is complemented with a bell tower with a similar swooping shape. It is surrounded by a reflecting pool for the worshippers to see. The Brasilia Palace Hotel serves as a huge influence of modernism. The supportive columns allow for a connection with the space underneath the building and provide beautiful shadow connections. This was the first building in Brasilia to be designed by Niemeyer. Niemeyer served as the chief architect at Novacap for 5 successful years. In 1961, he left to pursue a career in a private architectural firm. In the coming years, Niemeyer's designs were still appearing in Brasilia, as many of his designs had not yet been fully completed upon his departure.
As a group, we have so much to share about the life, historical significance, and cultural importance of Oscar Niemeyer's work. Each of our presentation's main points, background in education, novice architect years, famous projects, and Brasilia, align with our thesis to support the claim that Niemeyer was a forefront figure not only the world of architecture, but also Brazilians' history and culture. We have found many credible sources across our research to support this claim. It is our end goal to convey these findings in a persuasive, organized, and genuine fashion.